What's up, everybody? It's your boy Showtimedr. This is your 4-star Christian Advent Dungeon Guide. Go ahead and get into it right now. So one thing to note, you're going to need a fairly beefy tank for this. I've been using a Guildies tank that's pretty crazy, but just happened to find this guy. Let me slow it down for you guys. Hold on here. You notice fairly beefy health here. 18,000 defense. 4600. My Guildies tank is similar. It's actually Electra, but actually has damn near 5000 health. So if you do it the way I do it, you're going to need a pretty beefy tank. Right here, I was checking all stats and stuff. You see, fairly beefy recovery right here. Obviously, a lot of health. And, multi-strike for damages, whatever, attack speed. So. Recommendations for this fight, though, you are going to, depending on how you do it, because I do a slow burn build, you are going to have to at least have a tank with, I would say, 16k. Maybe you could get away with 15k, but try to hit that around 17% recovery. That's a fair bit beefier than the requirements were for Tayo. You're also going to need a lot of purple stars. 4 to 5 would be the best. I know that sucks, guys. I know that's a lot of investment, but I'm just telling you the truth as I experienced it. So we still got almost 2 weeks to build up. So get yourself a fairly beefy tank here, and definitely take one with a damage reduction for PvE instances. You're gonna need that. That's my follow animation right there. So one of them. Anyway, so you see my formation. Hold on, let me because it's done looking at this, because I remember at this point I was like, dang dude, I don't really know how to use Claude, because Claude has been sold to us mostly as a PvP tank, and still a PvP tank, but definitely can work in here. I've used Electra as well. I'm guessing almost any tank can work if you hit these benchmarks. My best personal tank is Cordelia, but Cordelia is going to have a rough time. I would need to level her for sure, but she's gonna get shredded by Damien, who's in the last boss encounter. You see my my setup here? Got a fairly beefy Tayo, my Rue, Abel, my Ramu, and then the tank, obviously. Fair warning, whoever you put next to the tank is gonna take a good amount of damage. So, and like I say, there's other formations that are gonna work, but that's just the one that worked for me. So. Alright, so this first guy, main thing to know, he puts up, there's his little AoE, he puts up attack down, attack decrease debuff. If that is put on you, get rid of it ASAP on everyone that's not the tank. Your tank, if it has the numbers that I told you about or anywhere close, should be fine. But basically this guy, especially if your DPS or your supports get it, he's gonna do, his damage is gonna be massively upgraded, as you're gonna be able to see eventually here. So the cool thing about Claude, I can talk about Claude real quick. Electro works in this situation as well. On this guy, obviously your tank, you want to get your taunt off. Your tank's going to have an attack down buff. Claude, in general, he actually has a, you can see it up here. Maybe you can't. Well, anyways, he has a brand. So the brand's kind of nice if you feel like you're going to go... you're going to like focus out a bunch of DPS. So right there, you see the attack down on the tank. That's not a big deal unless your tank's low. You really don't want it, because this guy counters a lot. You really don't want it on your deeps and your supports. Now, just to give you some information about why I chose this setup. 1 DPS, 3 supports, and a tank. So essentially 4 supports for my DPS, which is Tayo. My Tayo's fairly beefy because of the last advent. So I got his level 1 and his level 3 skill to max. Don't even use his level 2 too much. You're not really going to need it on this fight because there's no point. What's the point of buffing the DPS of everyone else? And you can hit pretty hard here. So right there, you saw that the attack down debuff was on somebody. I chose to cleanse it with Rue. If you got... I'm not sure if abnormal status actually stops it. I actually think it doesn't. Abnormal status, it's more like stuns and sleep, etc. So this first guy can't be CC'd in any way. There are people in here that can be CC'd slash skilled, including skills like Mental Seal, what's it called? Looming Death, although that's a little bit risky, etc. You'll see what happens here. IO putting out some deeps there. And then if you got everyone shielded with like an Able style shield, a shield that can't be pierced through. This guy, by the way, does not pierce, so if you manage to start timing, I believe it's once every 4 turns. If he managed to start timing his ultimate, because the way that he's going to wipe you, he'll eventually get us here, is he will ulti with one of your guys that's not the tank, with the defense down buff. He also has his 2, puts out a decent amount of damage. You know, otherwise just keep him taunted. One thing I'm starting to wonder, if you guys noticed, you remember how there used to be one of those, like, you know, the what happened bar on the right there, like right around here. Right around here. Basically, it was harder for me to decipher this fight because I can't just look at so-and-so hit you for XYZ or so-and-so use skill X. Because there was a couple damage amps in this dungeon. It didn't make sense until I actually went and looked at the character. I'm kind of hoping that Marvel brings it back, like at least the option. But, oh well. Overall, the patch has been really good. They've been treating us really well. So I ulted right there. The reason I chose the ult, he was going to burn an ability, and my DPS over there has the attack down debuff, which, like I said, this guy will do extra damage. For some reason I'm checking the guild here. We have this running joke with Theo being like the best character, even though probably isn't. But don't tell nobody. Alright, so there goes my deeps. Your deeps in this case, at least the way I'm doing it, you gotta treat it like how you treated Ruby in Tayo's dungeon, for you guys who ran Tayo's dungeon. Essentially, you know, it's gonna die a lot. There he goes again. Crap, why'd I do that? Switch to screen. Alright, but this guy, you know. So I'll start to talk about now. This guy doesn't have an enrage, by the way. Just it's basically the same fight, the entire fight. Now, phase 2, or excuse me, encounter 2. You are going to want to go into it as healthy as possible, preferably, obviously, with everybody up and their cooldowns back, but this guy, it's a little rough to do that, at least at my level. So, realistically, just try to kill him with your whole party up. You can adjust depending on how the how the encounter's going for you on the second time. So you see there, you got like my 2 resers pretty low. That is death in here. Your tank dying or your resers dying, just like most places. But especially your resers dying. Your resers dying basically stops everything. That's another follow animation I got there. So... and you know, you see, he's not doing that much damage to your tank. So... yeah, I just chose to end it there because I think his next turn he was going to ulti. Alright, so this phase 2. Cordelia and Alfred, they are both tanks. They both have charge effects, self buffs basically, that stack up to 3. There's a couple mechanics you gotta watch out for in this fight. You'll see that I am targeting regularly people that have the highest number of debuffs, or buffs rather. So these guys work differently than they work in your party. Number one, every time you hit them, it takes a charge away. If at any point they get 3 charges, and they can get it from like counters and multis as well, they get a charge each. So sometimes you'll just get screwed by RNG counters. Multi-strike's really nice in here because it guarantees you're at least going to take away 1 charge. But if at any point they get 3, they will do an AoE attack that will do a lot of damage and most likely stun most of the party, if not all the party. It'll one-shot Tayo. Tayo's 4 purple stars. Fairly decent gear and runes. Won't one-shot the tank. Your 2 rezzers, obviously, they're going to have, like, at least the ones I have right there. They got Resolve and they got Revive. So the main issue, too, is you need to try to DPS them down as evenly as possible. Because when one dies, the other one's always going to have 3 charges at the beginning of their turn. So basically, they're going to ult every turn until they die. To make up for this, though, they can be CC'd, you can stun them, you can sleep them, etc. Every debuff in the game works on them, including Mental Seal. Looming Death works after 5 rounds. The reason it takes 5 rounds is because they have a buff that wears away that basically makes them immune to Looming Death. But the issue is, and also another thing I should say real quick, Claude works really well here just because his auto hits 2. So basically he's getting rid of charges on both every time he's autoing, so that's pretty cool. If for any reason you know you're going to take one of their super spells, you know, try to get a shield up, like a Demo shield, Claude shield, Abel's shield, etc. Anything that'll help you mitigate the damage or resist it. Neither of their damage is pierce. So, what was the other major thing here? Oh yeah, so be very careful if you come in here with like a Looming Death / Mental Seal, because, like I said, killing one before the other, you know, you can stun the other for a couple rounds, but always keep in mind they take faster turns than we do, so you're probably realistically going to have 3 to 4 turns to DPS them or get another CC effect on them, just because of how fast they go. What else? So you see there, Alfred has 3 charges. So right there, I chose to heal. Cordelia is going to be putting up that damage immunity, but you can still hit them to get the charges off. In this case, they both got 3, so I decided I better shield, because I'm not going to be able to stop them both, most likely. So there goes my Tayo. But yeah, essentially you're just trying to bring them down ASAP, evenly as possible. If you're super buff, of course, you probably don't have to worry about that, but I am not, so I have to run the 3 support, 1 tank. Slash, oh, well, let me go ahead and put myself over here so you guys can see more of the screen. Alright, so once again, Tayo's going to die a lot. Just get him up, or whoever your DPS is for this. Bonus characters, Nyx, the new hero. She's good, but she's really squishy, so be careful with her. Although Curse does have a function in the next fight. I'll tell you that when I get there. Nyx does a lot of curses. Otherwise, you know, just bring some pretty good DPS heroes, whatever you got that is not. Dark obviously excels very well in here. I mean, I gotta stop saying that word. And you see the sleep proc work there. I'm not sure about light DPS in here. I'm not sure if the boss absorbs it or not, because these 2 are light, obviously, so is the first boss, last boss is, but there's also a fire boss that comes out. A fire sub-boss, so. Right here, I'm kind of in panic mode, because you can really get screwed, especially with Tayo, on like a really unlucky multi or a really unlucky counter that will just go ahead and pretty much finish off Alfred over there. And then I gotta deal with Cordelia ulting every turn until we stop her. Asno works in here with Mental Seal. I've seen people run Ashley for DPS. And you know, your results may vary. Most important aspect to this fight is your tank. Your supports obviously help as well. And if you have a better setup than me, you will probably be able to run at least 2 DPS. A tank and 2 supports. The more reses you got, the better. As with most things, unfortunately, in this game. One of the reasons Abel was chosen is because he basically brings up the survivability of the entire party just with his shield alone. His shield, when you put it up, it's on cooldown every 3 turns, and if you have his 60, it's up at the beginning of every fight. It's also going to take a lot of damage for you, not just the regen, but the regen really helps a lot. You see it there, you see all that regen every turn. That's going up. Abel, highly underrated, guys, so... got a chance, if you got one sitting in your inventory, you need another support that's not necessarily a debuffer / reser. Check out Abel's kit, it's pretty gnarly. Every turn, basically, that regen's going off as long as the shield's up on Abel, and that takes about 2 turns. So you see here, panic mode. We got one person, one boss down. Luckily, I got the stun off with your girl Ramu there. Right now it's just, oh my gosh, we gotta kill her, we gotta kill her. First, and luckily the Tayo counter took her out. It's alright, phase 3, here's your boy, Kristian. So, thing to note about Kristian, every buff that Kristian has on buffs his damage. So if you got someone that dispels like a Rue, Ruby, etc., they'll go a long ways DPSing in this fight. Like I said before, whoever stands next to Claude's going to take some damage. The way that Kristian's AI seems to work, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, he will attack whoever attacked him last. It doesn't always work. Luckily, the majority of the time, once your tank gets him, he'll stick to your tank for a while. But especially in the second phase, that's really gnarly. So be really careful. He does self buffs. You'll see him put up buffs about every 3 rounds or so. Basically, it's multi-strike counter chance. Occasionally, there will be a attack buff up as well. Kristian has a revive. And so, you know, try to keep him taunted. The attack down debuff works well. Defense down, obviously, but only really attack with your healers if either your tank is going to eat the counter with the basically the passive immunity or the passive taunt that code goes off with most tanks, the little spinning thing, or if it's Rue in most cases can survive and hopefully get some of the buffs off. But be especially careful when counter strike chances up. Now, right now, some of you guys might be watching this and be like, oh, this looks easy. Second phase. Just wait for that second phase. So there's a buff removal there. Sometimes you'll get a multi-strike, get another buff removal. If you ever happen to get the counter attack down, go ahead and attack with your deeps. The reason that I'm not, you need fairly beefy DPS in order to eat his counters. So, and I don't want to provoke him because he also has a cone effect, which will damage Rue, and my Rue's Resolve's still there, so I want that to be up as much as possible in case of emergency. So that's why you see me skipping whenever he puts the counter debuff. Now, another thing to note about Kristian, on his 2, which I believe he casts about every 3 turns, he will put up, there it is right there, weakness revealed. You can see it on Claude there. Weakness revealed, for those who don't know. that makes it so that the next attack on them until basically all the attacks that go off before the effect goes away, which is going to be on that character's next turn, are going to be crits. So you got to really watch that, especially occasionally it'll get on both Ramuh and Claude. So you do not want Ramuh eating later on what's going to be two characters' ults. So cycle that off whenever you can. Same thing if it happens to get on your deeps. Just get it off, especially in phase 2. That spinning thing, that's that passive taunt that I was telling you about. Basically, if anybody attacks the character with the spinning shield, it's going to instead go to the tank. Oh yeah, another thing to note. Everything that Kristian does penetrates, so you're not going to be saved by most shields. Abel's shield will work, but you know, shield. A Demo's shield will work. Anything that gives you like a passive dodge. Cheshire shield. Claude shield. But a shield such as like a Sid shield or you know, Ghost Girl or anything like that, that's probably not going to work. Also, if you notice, I didn't ult with Claude on the second round because he has a chance to put up Looming Death. I was only going to do it if we were just effectively screwed and I really needed him to ult to keep everybody up. But in this case, I'm actually saving his ult. You'll see how it goes in a bit here. But yeah, just keep grinding. Keep grinding. This first phase, it's not too difficult as long as you have a good tank, some beefier support slash DPS. Always, guys, don't neglect your HP on your supports and your deeps. And in general, I actually run defense sub-runes over HP sub-runes. Not all of them, like Esna's case, because Esna regens based on a percentage of her health. But in most cases I do, because most damage in this game doesn't ignore defense, and you really need that mitigation versus health. You know, and also you can't get defense on your substats. You can only get it on 2 primary stats and set bonuses. So you can get all the HP increase, HP recovery you want. Substats on runes. So right here, we're having issues keeping Tayo up, but it's just the way it works. I took a chance here. I burned both revives at the same time, right around when phase 2 is gonna hit, which is a huge risk. I really need. That's why you see me defending there on my DPS. And I probably defended until his buffs went away, except maybe with her, because she could actually remove them. Okay, I defended in that case. So there's the 2 again. Weakness revealed on both Ramuh and Claude. So I went ahead. On the transition into phase 2, you're going to want to put up whatever mitigations you have. Alright, so he goes down, comes back up. So the thing on this phase, summons Damien. Damien and him on turn 2 are both going to ult. He is going to ult the tank really hard, Kristian is, and Damien's going to AoE ult. So the reason I put the shield up, try to mitigate as much of that as possible. Also, you will see right here, I'm going to put up Claude's ult. For those that don't know how Claude's ult works, basically it has a high chance to put Veil up, and it's going to regen health based on his percentage at the end of his turn every turn. So right there, the evade protected Tayo, and the evade and the shield from... You see all those passive shields that went out? It's because of all the attacks that went on him. It's like a 20% chance, I believe, if you have a 3-star to proc every time your tank gets attacked. So we just mitigated a lot of damage there between Abel and Claude. You are going to need something similar. Damien can be CC'd. You see the stun there. When he's CC'd like that, just go on him with everybody, except maybe Rue, or anyone with a cone effect, because Kristian can counterattack pretty hard. And when the stuns wore off, just go ahead and defend. Especially the person next to Claude needs to defend. Now, you are in a DPS race right now. The DPS race is between whoever your DPS is, and Damien. Damien's doing a lot of damage, countering a lot, and also every once in a while, I think it's like 4 or 5 turns. I don't know what his ult cooldown is for this instant. But he's pumping out a lot of damage. So fire, that's the reason why I don't bring Cordelia. Now, to talk about what Kristian's doing. Kristian, he's going on a 4-turn cycle. So his 4-turn cycle is he buffs himself with the buffs you saw earlier, attack up, crit chance up. He'll probably put weakness, or actually he doesn't do that yet. Counter chance up, etc. Damien can stun, as you see there. What else? His second phase, he's going to hit the tank really hard. So you actually want to defend with your tank the majority of this phase, especially while Damien is up, because if Damien also chooses to focus the tank, Damien can put out some good damage, even on a really good buff tank like this. And he can stun. If your tank gets stunned, you can't defend, so you're taking that much more damage from the ult. Oh, I forgot to go over the 4 phase. So the 4 phase for Kristian is he's going to buff himself. He's going to ult single target hard. He's going to attack with his 2, hopefully on your tank, which is going to put up weakness revealed. So you might need to take that down. Ramuh's 2 reduces debuffs by 1 turn. Rue can obviously dispel it in general. And you might get unlucky. That stuns as well. The Kristian ult. You might get unlucky and get both ults at once after the initial phase, because that happens on turn 2. So just get weakness revealed and stun off your party ASAP. Same thing with attack decrease. I'm not entirely sure if they do more damage based on that debuff, but obviously you're going to want it off anyways, just because you want to do as much damage as possible. Don't be surprised and discouraged if your deeps dies 2 to 3 times during this phase. Your main focus, keep your tank up, keep your support up. You see how hard he's countering right there? So that's pretty crazy. Trying to think what else. Essentially, if you can kill Damien, you win. Okay, Kristian's still there. Kristian's still doing a good amount of damage, but if you can kill Damien, you win. Is basically how this phase goes. So I got every time I get Tayo up with Rue, you want to go ahead and blow his ult. It has at my level, since I upgraded it to level 6, that's an 85% chance to stun. You got any stuns, any CCs, get them on Damien as much as possible. Keep nasty debuffs like weakness revealed and stun off your team. And just burn them down, baby. Just keep burning them. Now, the reason that you go on Damien versus Kristian, if you kill Damien if you kill Kristian before you kill Damien, Kristian has a resolve. He always has a resolve until Damien is killed. And if you unfortunately do that as well, Kristian will berserk, and even a tank as good as Claude's gonna have a lot of issues with that. A tank as good as this Claude, rather. And there we go. Essentially, we've won the fight right now, but he's still doing his same phases, so you still have to be careful because his aggro can go on other people. He can start one-shotting supports and stuff, so just keep that in mind. He got a crit chance buff from a regular auto there, so guess he has a stacking one. I don't know if it's chance on hit. It looks like it's chance on hit. Yeah. So yeah, just standard stuff. Keep defending with your tank right before the ulti. Because if your tank gets stunned and critted and multied, and then he puts weakness revealed up, and for whatever reason you don't have the cooldowns to get rid of it, and he attacks again, he can kill the tank. Especially a less beefy tank, so... In this case, it looks like it's fine, because weakness revealed wasn't on the tank. So right here, I'm not taking any chances. I'm just getting rid of it, making him, excuse me, debuff immune. And yeah, this is a longer encounter for me. Essentially, it's like about a 40-minute encounter, which is rivaling Tayo's. Very different from a Taio fight, but it's also because I'm playing more safe. Eventually, as I get more comfortable with this and I start gearing characters around this, I'll probably start running double deeps. We'll see how it goes. Abel's really useful though, so it's kind of hard to kick him out. Maybe if I find someone that's like him, but dish out a little bit of damage on top of it. Like, say, a Cheshire or something. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the curse mechanic. So if you have a character that curses, Kristian takes more damage from opposite elements, so dark elements, on his elemental damage, whatever the hell it's called, on his first phase. Second phase, I'm not so sure, because sometimes that changes, but essentially he's going to be taking bonus damage from dark, but keep in mind, he's also doing bonus damage to dark. 30% each way, because that's that light dark's, you know, rivalry they got going on. So right there on his 2, it puts up a brand. Brand, 30% more damage. Anyone deals against you. I was hoping for a crit there, we didn't get it. And yeah, just a slow burn down here. I'm playing extremely safe, keeping everybody topped off, getting rid of debuffs whenever possible, getting rid of buffs on him. It's like a blessing when the shield effect goes off on Taio for me, because Taio takes some really nasty counters sometimes. But the good thing about Taio is you can ult with him, even if it's not going to stun, it'll do a decent amount of damage, and it gives him damage mitigation if you have it skilled up for 2 turns. Otherwise, you got to be kind of careful how you attack. So, I think you guys should pretty much get it by now, so I'll turn up the speed a little bit. We'll go to 1.5. Because in this try, I was doing a lot of, well, what about this? I was chatting with the viewers and stuff, so that's why you see some turns a little bit slower than normal. Yo is so meta. But yeah, it's just a solid burn once you get Damien down. It's a hot burn when he's up. It's a solid burn once you get him down. Just keep doing damage, keep being safe. Eventually, as you start to outgear this, you see there he ulted Taio, so if that happens, just get your DPS back up. Get the brand, trying to get the brand back on him didn't work. You went down again. So I got my other res, which for whatever reason I didn't use there. Probably I was worried about the tank, so I was trying to be safe with the tank, because the tank actually got low there for a second. And there he is, he's back. Probably the next auto from Taio is gonna at least get him close, if not kill him. What I should honestly be doing is ulting and then going for 2 rounds, because that's going to reduce the damage he takes, but oh well. So there you go, that's your Kristian. I got lucky, I got 2 out of 3 drops yesterday. Once again, guys, I can only do this with a really buffy tank, or buff tank. So I'm not quite at the level where I can do this by myself. That's why you see me running the build that I'm running. If you can run 2 DPS, I highly suggest Esna as one of them, just to help you with that phase 2, because you can, if anyone starts to get low, you can control that mental seal. And yeah, you know, just once you get the first 2 encounters down, it should just be a matter of RNG. sometimes you'll get screwed on that second encounter because they're going to be countering and multiplying like crazy, and then they'll get a bunch of stuns off. There's not much you can do about that. But, and the third phase, yeah, the fight against Kristian's basically the transition. If you can make the transition fairly safely with most of your group up, you'll be fine. And same thing goes for the transition from phase 1 to 2, or encounter 1 to 2, encounter 2 to 3, so. Anyways, guys, I'm Showtimedr on Twitch. You can find me there. Obviously, I got my YouTube here. We got a Discord tab. You can come in, go chill in the nice Chronicle tab, share your experiences, do whatever, get some advice. And yeah, so I think I'll be making a couple more videos today, but this was the big one, your 4-star Kristian Advent Guide, and I will catch you guys later on. Peace out.